Welcome to Data Forward, the podcast that keeps you ahead in the fast-evolving world of enterprise AI and data management. We bring you expert insights, actionable strategies, and the latest trends to help you stay on top. Ready to shape the future of data? Let's Data Forward.
Neeraj, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Ashwin.
Great. So, for those who don't know, what do you do at Acceldata?
So I head infrastructure and DevOps at Acceldata.
What does heading infrastructure and DevOps at Acceldata mean?
Okay. So basically, we are the under the hood players, kind of ensure that Acceldata production systems run at scale, are able to handle any defects, and we are able to commit and deliver on very aggressive SLAs to our customers. So we do what it takes. We do ops. We build platforms as it is required to run our systems. We do all the necessary automation. Sometimes we also take we do what it takes, right? So we use Band-Aids.
Anything and everything which is required to make Acceldata work well for their customers?
That is correct.
That is correct. Since you've seen a lot of startup journeys, including ours here at Acceldata for the last few years, when do you think any company should start thinking about investing or building a team which focuses on, let's say, infrastructure, operations, cloud, and things like that?
So you need to have a bit of critical mass in terms of scale. You have to have a couple of customers that are extremely finicky about a very high uptime. And
is it always about uptime?
It's not just it's about uptime. It's about performance. It's also about security. So that is, so you end up being, so the production real estate, when it's valuable to a point where you really need to protect it, that is when you start building infrastructure.
Let's talk about flow controller.
Yeah.
Good. What is flow controller?
So flow controller is basically a release orchestration tool or a platform.
Is it based on something already existing?
No, it's completely built from grounds up. And we did that just so that we address certain inconsistencies and in releases that I saw at Acceldata. So basically, if you have to do a deployment in multiple environments, even with the same release version or same release ID, it's hard to really bet on and say that the 50 microservices that are going to be rolled out, the same image tag or the same version will be rolled, exactly the same version we roll out to every environment. So that is a problem we're trying to address.
Is it a general problem with the whole microservices architecture, or
it is
seen it before as well?
Yes, it is a very standard problem. And normally people address it by being extremely dense on the process side.
Yeah.
So whatever we ended up doing was to basically bring that dense process thinking, and we ended up building a platform around it so that it has a lot less friction now. And today, the release promotion from our lower environments right up to pre-prod happens even without the involvement of DevOps. So it goes all the way through, and the engineering teams and the program teams, they handle it themselves. And once a release is certified up until the pre-prod standpoint, because I said we own the production real estate, that is where we come in and we verify and we make sure that the release meets all the quality checkpoints before it gets into production. But the automation is end-to-end.
So something like flow controller, I think the fundamental problem, let's say, it solves is the fact that the more microservices that you have,
Correct,
the more is the chance for you to make mistakes.
That is correct.
During
Absolutely right.
the whole deployment release cycle. And you probably need some sort of an orchestration to do it. So
that is correct.
It's very interesting. I've been doing tech for so long. We went from monoliths to now microservices. Correct. And now I think there's a lot of people who say that maybe it's an overkill of having so many microservices, even for let's say a small company like ours. You think what is the good number? What is your own opinion of what should be the architecture between a big monolithic system than to have like hundreds of microservices? Where do you think a good line should be drawn?
So I would say that
So that we make life
good
of people like
informed.
your team much easier.
So I think where microservices really play a good part, and of course you know it, is a very strong role is to make sure that there is a very strong development velocity,
Mm.
uh, and you are able to distribute the development across different teams and then bring all the microservices together and stitch together a functional system, right? But the problem is that once you have that, if you have too many microservices, you have to establish the contract between each microservices from the upstream systems to the downstream systems. And those complexities people do not think of when they bring it into play.
Correct.
And that is where you see a lot of issues when you run with hundreds of microservices in many systems, because the contracts are not clear, and two engineering teams and the engineering teams will grow very large. They don't talk to each other as much.
Yeah.
You just build something in isolation and you roll it
And
out.
I've also seen the tendency if, usually it is difficult if you have some, let's say, a new functionality
True.
which is not core to whatever is already in the code.
Correct.
Then it is difficult to, let's say, design it in a more graceful way.
That's true.
Where you can think about the architecture and how the modules fit together. It's just easier to say this is a new microservice.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can isolate that problem into that box.
That box.
And then you don't have to worry about somebody's existing code and expose an API and you're done with it. Right. So my own personal opinion on these things is that if you're a small company, then you are better off not doing microservices till you find till you find yourself in a place where it becomes more important due to either the business becoming large or the teams becoming more and harder to essentially work on a commonly shared process architecture, right? So I feel that most, and this is for 2025, most teams, most startups should not do it. Do you think? What do you think?
My answer is a qualified yes. And where this?
What is a qualified yes?
So basically, you've hit them a nail on the head by saying that when you are a small startup, you're starting off, you're better off not getting into the complexity of running microservices. Now that point is right. And so when you decide to get to a microservice architecture from a monolithic architecture, right? So what happens is you will really see that the 2 or 3 monolith applications that you built, they almost never retire. Because the reality of serving business requirements on that day, it always outpaces or it always outgrows your ability to carve different microservices out of that monolithic application that you have. So
or even provide for newer things to be built without disrupting what is already running.
I'll give you one example from one of my earlier companies. I'll not take the name of the company, but it's a very, very big company in the payment space, and grew from being a very small company to a market leader. Now, the initial set of founding years who came together to build the company, they went on from becoming CTOs to managing directors, and even today, you need to bring them in. There was a real issue going on with the core application that still kind of is the foundation of their
entire stack.
So although he has much bigger fish to fry, but if you really get into a complex problem, you have to bring him in.
You have to bring a CTO of a company which probably is going to go public in the next 6 months to figure out what's going wrong.
So that is the hard part.
Stack.
And that is where I came from, that standpoint of saying that it is a qualified yes. So if you do not kind of align very smartly to say, okay, we are getting to a point where we are becoming big, but you still have the mental bandwidth to address that problem.
So then it's more of a, the wisdom of the people who architect the software.
That is correct.
To allow for expansion later, and to also make sure that they don't create this dependency
That's true.
where this one big
Yeah.
code base
It's
is,
just,
it's brittle and
it is
difficult to
complex
manage.
and it is really, it has everything, right? The business
Yeah.
really runs on. It's
Right.
hard.
I agree. So how does flow controller then solve that problem?
So flow controller is more of a, like I said, it's a release orchestration tool or a platform. Basically, what it does is when I was speaking about contracts, right?
Yeah.
It makes it a little easier for the course contracts to be managed in terms of configurations when two microservices talk to each other. So that is where it simplifies, because it works on the concept of release descriptor. So when you have this one release descriptor, that is promoted from one environment to the other, and the release descriptor makes sure that the core components do not change, only the configuration values of configuration values of the applications change from environment to environment. So for example, you can have, let's say, so we have kind of clubbed different microservices in our company in an app group. And in that app group, right, so you know that this app group is like a cluster of applications or services to be deployed together, right?
Correct.
And then what we've done is, so that versioning for that app group is sacrosanct. So if that app group has a version of 2.3.1, it would have under the hood, it will have multiple microservices that will have different versions. And those exact versions will be promoted from one environment to the other. And then you abstract the configurable part of it, the values.yaml, into a separate configurations. Those are the values that the DevOps team modifies to be able to promote it.
Our architecture is based on Kubernetes.
Correct.
So I feel that there is some amount of ease of use
A lot.
that Kubernetes brings, which allows you to build these frameworks
That is true.
on top.
That is true.
Just like, microservices, there is a argument or a difference of opinion on whether a small startup should use Kubernetes or not use Kubernetes. Now, I know that you've been, a Kubernetes proponent / expert for a long time, and so has been your team. What is your own thought on Kubernetes, and should a small company adopt it during the early days? Because there is, of course,
that is true.
The problem of finding talent, the problem of learning, and the problem of management of such a system.
And also overhead. So when we started off the conversation, you said, when should you bring in an infrastructure team, right?
Yeah.
I think it's around that time when you should also try to so when you start building an infrastructure team, it is important that you bring Kubernetes on the table at an earlier stage itself. So while you are still building the product and you are proving the product to yourself, to your investors, to your customers, at that point of time, you don't need to bring in Kubernetes. But when you think that we are at a scale where you need a dedicated infrastructure team, and the application and the production real estate is expensive, I think it is good to invest at that point of time.
Right. With Kubernetes, especially now where it is over the years, and I feel that a lot of companies who are just starting out, and maybe 2 people, 4 people, 10 people, are thinking about should we or should we not? Because once you go for it, it's hard to come back.
You cannot come back.
And one aspect of it is what you said, which is when you feel there is a need for dedicated production, infrastructure and people.
Correct.
But what is the software, from a software engineering architecture perspective, what is the point where you say, okay, let's invest in running this on top of Kubernetes?
So basically, from a software engineering standpoint, where you start valuing, the strength that Kubernetes brings into play, right? Self-healing, small services, easy to deploy, velocity, right? When you start valuing those aspects, that is when you should start designing for Kubernetes, and it's not very hard. So if you build the application, right, you can always Dockerize it and then roll it out.
Yeah,
it's not hard.
It depends. I think for a lot of people, the management overhead of it and the, the idiosyncrasies of the system itself and the deployment environment becomes a little bit of an overhead to, let's say, velocity.
Yeah.
And so I've heard a lot of people say that, hey, you don't need all of this, just, something like System D works well enough. But then you should also then have people who understand that deployment.
That is true. That
so
is true.
Not like you said, not everybody understands System D, how to run it, how to run it well,
How to run it
right?
well.
Where do you log it out?
That's also one more level of complexity.
That's another level of complexity. So, yeah, but for me personally, I feel that it was more difficult a few years back than is now. I think now you could theoretically start very early in your startup journey to adopt Kubernetes, and there is now enough. You can run it now on your laptop.
That's true.
And deploy, test it out, and then the same deployment basically works.
And you have enough skills available. So that wasn't the case 6-7 years back.
Are there enough skills available? Are there people you think it's easy to hire for this sort of a role? People who understand systems and Kubernetes and cloud?
No. So you always have to have like 3 or 4 really good people in the team, and then you hire for potential. So, and then you allow the newcomers to grow with the senior engineers in their team and learn from them.
Yeah. What was challenging when you were building flow controller? I mean, I'm not talking from a writing the code perspective, because that's not a challenge anymore.
True.
But what do you think is like, if let's say other people who are watching this want to build or think about building such a system, what has been your experience? What has been challenging, and how should people think about it?
So I think when you are already living that problem on a daily basis, right? You understand that it's a problem, but you really do not think of a way to solve it, because it's a part of that journey itself, right? So you think, yes, release inconsistencies are there, and you need to look in multiple places like, Argo CD and your Git code base, and so you need to look in different places and say, oh, you know what, this service X is exactly the same version as in one environment to the other, right? So what people get so used to living through that rigmarole, that thing it's just a part of how things are,
life, right?
Part of how things are, right?
I know that feeling. I mean, once you have a problem, and then you get used to a way of somehow managing it, right?
Correct.
Maybe some fixes, some patches, or there's a process. You go modify this file, then you modify that file, then you say, oh, I'll write a script which will modify all of it.
Correct.
Then building something which makes their life easy seems to be a bigger problem than fixing the problem.
That is correct. Itself. And also people, until you get to the end of what the solution would look like, right?
Yeah.
It's hard for people to visualize that actually it can be solved in a pretty elegant way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that getting that buy-in initially was a little difficult.
Yeah. How has been the adoption inside Acceldata?
So in Acceldata, we use a tool called Sentinel. And Sentinel is powered by Flow Controller. Under the hood, it is Flow Controller that orchestrates that entire end-to-end promotion of deployment. So we kind of came from the top wherein we built. So we did not, but a different team built Sentinel on top of Flow Controller. Adoption of any new product is not easy, but we went through that pain point. And while in the beginning, it seemed a little too much to work with a tool that was a little unstable, did not address many corner cases. But as Sentinel stabilized, right, people could see the value in what we were doing.
Yeah.
So because it got driven from the leadership standpoint, I think adoption started happening, and then
that's interesting. I think there is something to be said about the fact that if you want some process change and you want some things to be done in a certain way, democracy usually does not work.
Doesn't work. It was a little top down.
Well, because most people are set in their ways and they don't want to change. It's like, oh, I first copy this file remotely and then I patch it.
Correct.
And then I run it and I'm used to it. Correct. I don't want a new tool, right? So that's the thing.
And I think if you really look at it right now, right, the success, this overall success, is also because of the fact that two different teams, we both built the Flow Controller and another team built Sentinel, right? But these two teams could actually work so well together and actually roll out a unified product.
Yeah.
So that was also, I think, something that we should be very proud of.
Yeah. Do you have any plans to kind of open it up for other people to use it, like an open source version of it some way?
We can open source it. I think it is at a point where it can be open sourced.
Uh-huh.
There would be a lot of last mile work
Yeah.
that needs to be done,
Mm-hmm.
and to put and then you also have to support that product once you open source it.
Yeah.
So you have to have that bandwidth to be able to do it.
To be able to actually allow people or help people adopt it.
That is correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is always the bigger problem. It's never about, open sourcing some code. It's always about.
Correct.
Do you plan to expand the team? Do you have right now?
I think
because Acceldata, our business is growing. And so do you plan to expand the team?
Certainly. I think the business is growing at a pace where our hand will be forced and are looking to hire at every level. So sometimes we are very open to having really smart people over, and so at every level. So very, very keen to interview more people and see how it goes. The reason is that the pace at which we are growing, ops team will be the one to bear the brunt first.
Yeah, of course.
And that is why I think it will be good to again add a few people.
What would you say is the right mix of skills for a person to join your team?
A decent system understanding, one programming language.
Any programming language?
Python or Go.
Python or Go, okay.
And one cloud. So any one cloud person should be good at, and a good attitude, right? So that's really important. When you come to the team, you will realize there's a lot to learn, regardless of where you come from and how good you are. So there's a lot to learn from the team. So it's very, very important for that person to be open to learning from others. Yeah. So,
great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
thank you so much.
Hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Welcome to Data Forward, the podcast that keeps you ahead in the fast-evolving world of enterprise AI and data management. We bring you expert insights, actionable strategies, and the latest trends to help you stay on top. Ready to shape the future of data? Let's Data Forward.